You're in the Business Insurance Zone with me, Steve Savant, national insurance columnist and financial color commentator. This week on The Biz, our end-of-the-year tax planning for 2012. And on today's show, the impact of the fiscal cliff with special guest Ken Davis, CLU, CHFC, CFP, and CPA.
When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm your host, Steve Savant, and we're broadcasting live to a nationwide audience of financial advisors right here in Fountain Hills, Arizona, home of America's largest fountain. And with me today, day 2 of our 5-series saga, Ken Davis. Hey, welcome, Ken.
Stephen, good to see you.
Well, Ken, you know, CPA, and I bow down to all your credentials, of course. I'm not worthy to be on the same set of it. You know, it's okay, I appreciate that. And I haven't, I don't know, do CPAs have rings to kiss? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying. Sometimes I have a very healthy respect for the fiduciary community, and I want to be able to genuflect, especially on all things that are tax. So today we are talking about all things that are tax because the fiscal cliff is going to cause some issues. And before I get into that, I just want to read a little bit of a blog that I wrote, and I don't want to get a lot of heat for this, but I wrote a little blog out there that got some traction, and it said basically this: since both parties refuse to do the honorable thing by falling on their ideological swords, their inaction condemns the American taxpayer to once again pick up the tab for their collective incompetence. Here are the consequences of their capability or their culpability. And this is what we're talking about today. What are the consequences of their inaction? And we're going to go right down the idea. Now, I want to make sure we have some definitions straight because this is where I want to make sure we're all listening to the same thing. And if you want to order what I'm about to talk about, I'll throw it in because it's not on our list for giveaways today, but I'll throw it in anyways. You want to say, what is the tax bracket for 2012 and what will it go to in 2013 if there's no action? I'll send that to you. Now, Ken usually uses the phrase, if I remember correctly, he calls it the marginal tax bracket. But we live in a progressive tax system. So you're not in the 10, you're not in the 15% marginal tax bracket. You're blending these brackets. It's kind of hard to describe to a regular consumer because he thinks, hey, I'm in the 10% bracket, I'm in the 15% bracket.
Well, that's interesting, and it reminds me of a story. My father, who is an engineer, very bright and capable man, says to me, he says, well, you know, if I go to the highest tax bracket, then I'm going to have to pay all this additional income tax. I said, Dad, no. They tax the first portion at a lower rate, the next portion at a higher rate, and another portion at the higher rate. So if you have, you know, $10 into the new bracket, that doesn't mean all of the rest of the income suddenly is taxable. That generally stair steps. Now, there are exceptions to that, which, for instance, the taxation of Social Security, it is more like how my father thought it was and less like it actually is. So you're talking about an effective rate, a blended average rate. When we do tax planning, sometimes you say, if I reduce income by 5 or 10 grand by making this strategy, what impact does that have on my marginal income tax bracket? Because that 5,000 reduction may be in the highest 1 or 2 brackets of that series.
Well, when I'm looking at this all matters because if we see what we think could happen in just 30 days or so, it depends upon the action of or the inaction of the Congress, we're going to see tax rates go up. And if we see tax rates go up, there'll be other things like I heard you talking about the capital gain and how the capital gain is going to also have some Medicare, this passive income tax that goes along with it. Talk a little bit about that because a lot of people think, oh, we're only talking about ordinary income tax brackets going up. And remember, again, for half of America, this doesn't matter because they don't even have a tax bracket.
Well, this is a major paradigm shift, and in terms of planning, one of the things we've done in the past is we've switched from ordinary earned income wages to passive type income because we had special benefits. We had cap gain rates, we had dividend rates at 15%. You know, there was we could have losses offset gains. There was a good deal of planning that could go on. Well, suddenly we have this net investment income, this NII or NI, which reminded me of the Wii game. We got Wii and NI, but so
I thought you were there was a CPA. I thought you said there was a CPA game out there called NI. I could see all you guys with your pocket protectors, and whatever.
Well, modern technology gave us Wii. Modern tax laws gives us NI and NII, and so what's happening is all these passive income aspects are going to be taxable at a 3.8% tax rate for certain people. I think it's $200,000 for individuals and $250,000 modified adjusted gross income, that silly term, which I like to call magic, modified adjusted gross income confiscation. But anyway.
Oh my gosh, here we go.
Anyway, we now have something else to contend with. So we may be thinking we'll shift from wages over to passive income, and then we're going to have these special rates. But now we've got this new 3.8% tax that kicks in. I mean, you can't play with it in your brain anymore. You really have to sit at a computer, have a tax projection software or a CPA that knows how to run this stuff, and actually run this through and see, if I do this, this is what I pay. If I do this, this is what I pay.
Well, here are the consequences. I mean, did I do the math here? If I'm bumped up to the next capital gain rate, which I think they want to do at 20%, and then I add on this passive tax, I could be paying almost, not quite, 24%.
Right.
In a regular dividend and or capital gain rate. I mean, ultimately, when you homogenize these two together. When you talk about almost at 24%, now you're talking most of middle America on down on the ordinary income tax rates. And remember, one of the reasons why people kind of poo-hoo insurance products is because capital gain rates were superior to ordinary income. Now all of a sudden, these are getting so close for everybody that's even upper middle class, middle America on down, it's pretty even money.
Well, and if you think of most of the people, who is the segment of the population that has passive income mostly? It's our retired elderly. These are people that work their entire lives that now are going to be hit potentially with this passive income tax. And then throw on to that for the people that aren't quite so wealthy, you've got the taxation of Social Security. So the lower ones get taxed Social Security, the higher ones have higher Medicare premiums, and then the really high ones have this knee tax that's going on the thing. I guess they're going to cap us in the knee. But anyway.
Okay.
Sorry, Steve.
Well, we come back from the break. We're not hiring Ken as a comedian. I bring him on the show as a CPA. And don't forget, you can enroll in the IULUniversity.com, the best training, education, and sales support when it comes to life insurance for retirement income. Ken, keep your day job.
You're listening to the insurance industry's #1 resource for products, planning ideas, carrier information, and interviews you can use. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Did you know the average 401k runs out of money just 7 to 8 years into retirement? Time Magazine, the Wall Street Journal, and many other publications have warned of the difficulty of saving with a 401k. But what if there was a way to create tax-free lifetime retirement income with no stock market risk? Good news, there is.
You know, living in fear of the next market dive is not the way I want to live my life.
Why would I go out there and take on risk when I don't need to?
I have a lot less stress knowing I can't lose any more of my retirement savings in the stock market.
Call now to receive your free, no-obligation analysis of what this retirement vehicle could do for you, a comparison to your current retirement plan, and a free video that explains this exciting opportunity. Start planning a retirement you can enjoy instead of worrying about future tax increases and stock market losses. Creating income that will last your entire life is the most important thing you'll ever do. Take control of your future. Call now for your free analysis, comparison, and video.
Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm Steve Savant with Ken Davis. And remember, you can order today's giveaway at thebiz@brokersalliance.com. And what are we giving away? Our 2012 End of the Year Planning Manual. And again, it's kind of deep into the weeds, but if you're the kind of guy that really has insomnia, order this manual because it is to die for, or at least put you to sleep. But it's got all the issues that we're talking about and a lot deeper because we can only touch on a few things. And remember, especially with this week's show, before moving forward with any of the ideas you hear on our broadcasts, always consult your tax advisor first and your broker-dealer compliance department if you are so licensed with FINRA. Now, when we're talking about this, we've been talking about taxes going up. Now, one thing, and you know what? I remember in one of the shows, you called these kind of ideas stealth taxes, right? They're kind of hidden, they're clandestine, they're cloaked. Most of the public doesn't realize it's not $250,000 is the demarcation line. That's some gross number, right? We're looking at lower numbers, way lower than that. Now, I want you to redefine also, though, the big one, and it's a big one from my point of view, this issue of inflation versus the true cost of living. Talk a little bit about that because talk about he who frames the argument wins. The government keeps reframing the definition of inflation, and you can always tell how the definition goes with the government because Social Security benefits go up a tick. I mean, not much. So talk about that.
Well, one of the things I guess maybe I'm a little bit more aware of it, is when I go to the supermarket now, I don't see low rates of inflation. I see food prices going through the roof. And when I go to restaurants, where I might have been able to get away with a $5 or $6 lunch, I'm now talking $10 at least, and we're not talking high-end restaurants here. Even some of the fast food chains, by the time you get out with your fries and your Coke and everything else, I mean, soda's at $2.50 or $2 now. And it makes you wonder, are these numbers real? I mean, where does the government come up with this stuff? They're telling us what we're paying in inflation, but then we're watching our prices go up. And and you start to wonder, and not only that, on a more local basis is sales tax. When I got to Arizona back in 1978,
Oh boy. There
it
we
was
go.
4%. Now it's 9%. So tell me that the cost of living isn't going up faster.
Well, this is why I bring this up, because inflation and the cost of living are two different things, and I never look at the government's report on inflation because it has nothing to do with gas prices, our food, our utilities, all the things that it takes to live on. And when I look at the grocery bill going up, I mean, when I think about it, it costs money to deliver it. We're sitting, I don't know how we can be under $90 a barrel. I don't know. I've been under $9 a barrel and still be at $3.50 to $4, depending upon where you are in the country, on gasoline. This is so hurtful for people that are middle class and below. It kills them. They always say they're targeting the rich. I say the rich pay whatever they pay, but it's always the middle class that pays in the end. And there's never been any economics that I'm aware of in history since, I'm going to say, that probably the turn of the century, 1900s or so, where I can look at any and market and say that was a really good deal for everybody but the rich, everybody paid less. It seems like because the populace is sitting in the middle class, we're always going to be stuck with the tab. And there are stealth taxes coming on the middle class that have nothing to do, even if we get past the cliff and the middle class does not pay any income tax, there are going to be extra taxes to pay, especially with Obamacare now online and the things that we're running to with this new passive income tax. All these stealth taxes are going to come online and we're going to be paying them.
Well, and probably the largest tax increase of all that isn't called a tax is basically inflation. And the fact is, when you have massive trillions of dollars of debt and then you have interest on that type of thing, at some point the world's going to wake up and say the US dollar isn't as strong as it is.
But I think the argument there, Ken, is that it isn't as strong as, but compared to every other currency. And I think that's what everybody keeps doing. Everything is relative.
Yeah.
Probably the greatest thing that Albert Einstein ever invented had nothing to do with E equals MC squared. It was the theory of relativity. And now we're talking about dollar relativity to the euro dollar or to the Chinese currency. When you start looking at it this way, we do look pretty strong.
Well, we do, until this massive debt gets to 22 or 24 or 30 or 50 trillion dollars. Then they're going to go, the illusion's going to go away. And boy, it was really gutsy for one of the services to say that there was a downgrading in the U.S. debt. They took a lot of heat from the government. That was a really gutsy thing to do. But the fact is that it's not as strong as it once was, and inflation is a regressive tax. It hits everybody across the board. There is no hiding from inflation. When you go to buy something, prices are up because they've debased the currency by overprinting the dollar bill. People are going to pay that tax. And so we're talking about relatively small issues with tax rates. When we get to inflation, this is going to be big, and it's going to be big for everybody, even those that are taking a cash business where they're doing a service and taking cash. Even those people are going to pay that higher tax.
Well, these are all new realities that are coming. I mean, some of these we're already experiencing on the inflation issue and the true cost of insurance, or cost of living. Wow, there's an issue. There's a Freudian slip if I've ever heard one. But really, what we're trying to do is we're setting the stage because there are artful things to do before the end of the year. On tomorrow's show, we're going to talk about how individuals can prep for this. And on Thursday's show, we're going to talk about how businesses can kind of prepare for all this. And Friday, we're going to show you some of the great tactical issues of using tax advantage products, whether it's annuities or modified endowment life insurance contracts or non-MEC life insurance contracts. All these are going to come to bear. And why? Because rates are going up. Inflation unabated, it seems like it to me. And all these new stealth taxes that are coming online. We have to prepare, really honestly, we have to prepare for some kind of uptick in our actual cash flow. What we're going to be putting in our pockets is going to get taken away from us. The only way to do it now, I think, is planning strategies, tax strategies, and using tax advantage products to try to somehow mitigate and blunt the number. Well, remember, you can watch this show and all our shows this week by clicking on the red on-demand video button right on our homepage at brokersalliance.com. Well, that's the Buzz on the Biz for today. Get in the zone, the business insurance zone.
The Biz is brought to you by Brokers Alliance, a national leader in insurance products, support services, and educational workshops. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.